Hi, and welcome to Filmmaker's Compass Podcast. I'm Dustin, joined by Chris FCP, and we're very excited. We have a great episode in store, lots of stories, and we actually have a fellow Hoosier with us today. Christian, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, this is our friend Brad Banacka. I think it's the coolest thing how we met. A couple weeks ago.
This is true.
Dustin and I are hanging out in the lobby. We'd wrapped up a podcast. Brad shows up for an audition. We start talking to him, and we're like, okay, what's going on? And he's talking about the town that he's from. Surprisingly, it sounded very much like the town that we were from, because in fact, it was.
South Bend, Indiana.
That's right. The great South Bend, Indiana, Mishawaka Granger. For all our friends back there. Hey, miss all you guys, but tell you what, we don't miss the winners. Ain't that for sure?
Yeah.
And so obviously we're like, what are the chances that we're going to run into someone who, I mean, you literally lived like 2 blocks away from me.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually right up there in Granger. Yeah.
And here in LA, and then we're like, you got to come on a podcast.
Yeah, connected on social media, and here we are. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
You're an independent filmmaker and an actor. We get a little bit about it because we were there. But for the rest of the people listening, what is the film scene like, in your opinion, in the Michiana area?
In the Michiana area, it's very, very limited. Basically, growing up out there, I started in musical theater. I did a lot of theater there, some commercials, but our big thing was the theater. You know, working with the South Bend Civic. I did a lot of shows with them back in the day. Love that place. I still try and keep contact with some of my friends that are out there.
Nice.
But if you want to get anything into the film, you got to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that was the big thing. I did high school plays, college plays, and I always want to be an actor. I went to IUSB, Indiana University South Bend, on a scholarship. And, of course, I flunked out. But it was a scholarship for theater.
Okay.
And so that's where I started my reign. But then all of a sudden, you know how it is, family life, having a child. You kind of take that direction, and that's where I went. But I still kind of played a little bit with the Civic and things like that, but always had those aspirations in the back of my mind.
Okay.
So moving forward almost 30 years, the ex-wife and I had moved to Tucson, Arizona.
Okay.
Been working out there on a whim. Pima Community College had a little film studies group, and they were putting little short films together.
Yeah.
So I auditioned for that, got a little role. It was called Artificial. It's kind of cool. I was like, all right, that's really neat. At about Christmas time, I was given my pink slip from my day job. Looked at the wife at the time, and I says, you know what? Always wanted to try my hand at acting in film. I'm just gonna do it. She goes, what do you mean you're just going to do it? I says, well, we got some money, I'm going to get some headshots made, and I'm just going to go beat the street in Hollywood. She goes, you're nuts. I'm like, yes, but I'm going to do it. And she knew I was going to do it. So I actually went out. My plan was for 2 weeks, ended up renting a little hotel room down in Hollywood at Las Palomas Hotel.
Okay.
It's the outside has been on Seinfeld. So part of the thing, the tour buses were always going by.
Yeah.
Interior, not so much, but it was a place to lay the head. So I have these headshots that now that I look back, and I should have brought some to show you. No, they're not industry standard headshots. So I start beat-feeding around. And I'm checking things out. I ended up getting on a TV show, court drama. It wasn't a court drama, but it was a court show.
Okay.
$50, you play around. So that was my first TV experience. On my computer, I'm looking at Craigslist. And I'm like, okay, we're looking for background work. All right, it's just a little independent. I'll send it in. They say, come on down. I'm like, all right. So the next day, I drive down there, and it's at the old USC hospital there, between the 10 and the 60.
Oh, yeah, you can see it right off the freeway.
Beautiful old.
Yeah.
So I come pulling up, and it's big enough as it is. I'm like, okay. He said 7th floor. So I'm trying to find buttons. I get up there. As I walk out, I see Danny Glover walking around a corner. Not thinking I'm on the wrong floor. I turn around. I'm heading for the elevator. Here comes the second assistant director. Wait, you're Brad. Come on. Brings me in. And so I'm doing background work for a small independent feature, finding out that, of course, Danny Glover is one of the leads.
Nice.
And it was like, just blew me away. So as we're sitting there, and I'm not really doing anything, there's these scripts on the table.
Sure.
And I'm reading through the script, and I get done, and I'm like, this is a great script. I said, man, you could win some awards with this. This got me all teary-eyed. And this young man in the corner who had scrubs on, one of the actors, says, well, thank you. And I'm like, what do you mean about that? He said, no, I wrote it. So it was an independent film. Leo Olivia wrote the film. One thing led to another. I stuck around. All of a sudden now I'm second assistant director on the shoot, getting to wrangle guys. Plus then I got a small little role in there. So our big thing was on this little production was, how many times can you see Brad on screen? Literally, because I would do a lot of background work, do background work, plus then fill in. There was a scene that ended up getting cut where I go across once, I change my clothes, I cross again in a hallway, down a long hallway, because we didn't have enough people to cover. So it was like, okay, give me this, I'm carrying it across. Give me this, I'm carrying it across. Give me this.
That's funny.
And so that was my first real into an independent film. Moving forward about a year.
First of all, I have to applaud you. You are one of the few people who said, you know what? I'm all in on this filmmaking thing, and you jumped right in. I think it was incredibly ballsy that you're like, you know what? I'm just going to go up to Hollywood and see what happens. Very, very cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Most people don't have the guts to do that.
I didn't really either. I always say that doors open for you, and if you take that advantage. But yeah, so it surprised myself too. My next move on that was I was really excited. Moved back home, doing what I was doing. We were trying to get They were trying to get a theatrical release for The Shift.
Okay.
It is on Amazon Prime. It's called The Shift. Make sure that you see it. But they ended up having a premiere in Florida. We flew down for that.
Cool.
It was an awesome,
Very cool.
An awesome
Very
trip.
Cool.
Had a great time. And then since we had that little flow, that's when I decided to make that move. I got a job here. That's where you get into what we're discussing a little earlier. Dream of you think it's going to be an automatic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, you come out here starry-eyed and you're like, oh, you know, I'm going to meet Steven Spielberg or Christopher Nolan, and before you know it, I'll be king of the movie industry. Yeah, you got to pay your dues. It takes some time. And that's what we're, Christian and I, in our own pursuits, in doing all these interviews and everything, that's what we're finding out is everybody's like, man, you really got to stick with it. You have to have perseverance. Most people end up dropping out.
Yes, and they really do. And it's a sad state because they turn around and they think they're going to get that 1 or 2 year. I will admit, my first couple of years out here, I was a lost puppy. I didn't know where to go. I didn't have support.
Yeah.
I'm like, what direction? I'm going to make it, and I'm going to do it. But there's been times that I had sat in the room going, should I just go somewhere else? Should I just give up?
Yeah.
As a new actor, what are some of the ways that you built a community? Did you go to acting classes? Did you join players groups? Did you do community theater? What are some of the things you did to kind of...
I had enough with Leo in that
Sure.
they were supportive and they kind of guided me. It's nice to have that kind of mentor.
Oh,
yeah.
So basically I took Meisner study, and I've studied Meisner twice.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Meisner, I took a Meisner class for directors. It's like, oh, you want to work with actors? Go through this and have the emotional shit kicked out of you. And then you'll know what it's like to be an actor. And oh my God, Meisner is
my study.
For those who don't listen, as Dustin said, can you summarize Meisner in a 30-second?
Okay, well, Sanford Meisner was one of the great teachers of our time. It's basically living through the moments, moment to moment.
Okay.
And so your first year is a total breakdown. As you said, it's breaking down your walls because as kid actors are easier to get their emotions out because they don't have those walls that have been built up over years and over years. Yeah. So it's basically breaking you down, not in a bad way, but in enough way that you can get to those emotional feelings and that you can pull a moment from somebody on how they feel. Right now you're looking at me, you're very inquisitive on learning this right here.
Right,
and that's what I'm getting from the vibe just by seeing you, and that's what Meisner teaches.
Okay.
It's an awesome study. I highly recommend it for anybody. You don't have to use it all. All your training, you can take nuggets of each of it and be able to tailor make it for your own.
Did that help in the sense that you now had a group of other actors that you could work with?
Oh, yeah. Oh, very much so. Very much so. And I have friends that have continued over the years through those classes, just like my producing partner that I have now from my last class. We would go and produce our own content.
Oh, cool.
You'll find a big problem as you move out here, you don't have a resume of projects. You don't have a demo reel. Casting directors need a great headshot and they need something that pops on a demo reel that knows that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those we were actually building off of each other, that we would work and make these little 30-second, 1-minute demo reels and be able to use that and move forward.
I think one of the hard parts about being an actor, getting comfortable with auditioning and not succeeding. Right? It's like applying for a job interview and then most of the time you don't even hear back. How do you train yourself as an actor to be comfortable saying, I'm going to show up, I'm going to spill my guts to these strangers, my emotional guts, and then I'm going to be ready to do it again the next day?
Now, you raised a really good point on that, because when I first came out, I had a hard time with the rejection.
Okay.
Because I've never really been told, no, I can't, no. And that's the hardest part is, as anybody that's new that's coming out here, you have to understand, at any one time, there's 1,000 people that have sent in their headshots.
Right.
Maybe 50 of them are chosen to come in, but you still are going against so many people. You have to bring your A game. But if you didn't get the part, it's not because of your acting.
Yeah.
It can be you're not tall enough. You're not...
Right.
You know, there's so many other variables.
Yeah,
Or we went a different direction.
Yeah.
Instead of a guy, now we're making it a female.
Yeah.
But you're going against a lot of other people. And my hard part was hearing that no. But it gave me the drive and determination to get better and better and better. But yeah, you have to have a thick skin. But then you also have to look at it and say, well, there are variables that are completely out of your control. The biggest thing that I can give to the audience is it's the time you get to actually perform in front of somebody. Don't take it as, oh, this is an audition. No, you're performing.
It's a performance.
You're performing. You're
That's
doing
really
your job. It gives me chills when I get to walk in, because whether or not I get the part, I still got to do my job.
That is
That's a
really
good point.
cool way to look at it.
So,
Yeah, I like that. It's a little bit of a mind shift, but it's, kind of how can you almost take the nerves away a little bit? It's like, no, this is your job. That's awesome.
That's exact, and that's
cool.
the best analogy that you can take with that, and especially for people that are coming out, because it takes 10 years to get your first big break.
Yeah.
Right.
I have plenty of friends. It's been, you look at their whole cycle of it, and it's about 10 years that they become, and it's like they think they're an overnight success, but people don't realize the amount of work that you have to put into it to get to that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, something else I kind of wanted to touch on is you had mentioned a couple different projects that you're working on like now. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about those projects and maybe what you have in the works?
Or projects that you've done recently.
Or
Because
projects.
I know you've done a bunch.
I'm trying to stay busy. That's what I say. With a day job. And I always tell people, here's one thing is, if you come out here, just as a caveat, if you're not planning on working, you come out here with a good bank account.
Yeah.
I did take a complete year off of my day job, and I went through that money in a full year. Wow. So it's one of those things that you want to make sure that when you're serious about coming out here, you check all those boxes. You don't be just crazy enough to, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to be a barista and I'm going to try, because the cost of living out here is so much higher than it is anywhere else. So bringing that to that, I've got a couple of films that are on Amazon Prime right now. One is, of course, The Shift. It's been on there for a while. Please check it out. It's that's the one where I was second assistant director. I've got another one called Loquisha. I have a supporting role in it. It's a funny film. You need to check it out. I do have one that I'm really excited about. We filmed in Iceland. I got to spend 22 days on that beautiful island shooting a film called Angels Never Cry. Not only was I one of the lead actors, I was also the UPM, which is Unit Production Manager, which means I helped keep everything together. That's actually being released internationally right now in 24 screens in Vietnam, coming out shortly. They're having an Italian premiere. I'm trying to talk my way into getting into the Italian premiere. And then hopefully we'll get distribution out here in the United States. But I'm just happy that it's getting released out there.
Now, would you talk a little about, you said 22 days in Iceland. What's it like as an actor being on location like that far? How does that go?
Well, this one being another independent, we all chipped in. So we had one of our lead actors, we'd cook, and we'd kind of be communal towards the end. At the beginning, we roomed we were doing the Airbnbs. So
Okay.
I roomed with a couple other actors.
Yeah.
And then a couple of the actors were rooming in one of the locations where we were shooting.
Okay.
So, but then at the end, we all went to this cabin, and it was such a great communal feeling that, you know, you had everybody together, and it's such a beautiful place.
Sure.
I mean, if anybody can visit, go visit. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. In addition to all the different projects and stuff you've done, you mentioned like when you first came out here, you were looking for jobs on Craigslist. Do you have any advice for like finding work?
I don't know about the Craigslist now. I think that's a one and done lucky, because normally that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Normally you need to get on like Actors Access, LA Casting, Backstage. There's another one called Hollywood Casting. That's where I actually got the Angels Never Cry.
Okay.
And I was brought in through Hollywood Casting for Angels Never Cry. I wasn't actually auditioning for it, but they will send their people in.
Yeah.
And then I read for a role, and she looked at me and she goes, "No, that role doesn't fit you, but can you read for Papa?" And then I read for Papa, and then one thing led to another. There was supposed to be an Icelandic actor that was having that role, and she wanted me so bad that she worked her power, and then I took over the role of Papa.
Cool.
So, you know, moving forward, especially now that I'm starting to produce, you know, we're working on a half-hour comedy. We're calling it Over Our Heads. We originally released and this is where we get back to working together with classmates. We did a web series called Midlife Crisis, which was basically two guys trying to make a web series about making a web series.
Okay.
Very meta.
Very meta. And it's the same thing. Well, now we've really upped the stakes. And so Over Our Heads is like a cross between Bill and Ted and Oh God, You Devil.
Okay.
And we've added a lot more layers of this onion. And so basically we follow the misadventures of two bumbling old-timers trying their hand at fame and fortune in Hollywood. The town of 7 deadly sins. And we looked that up, and it's like, you know what? Every sin fits Hollywood. Not the city itself, but just Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, and then the whole time we realized that they were actually pawns in a cosmic game that could set off end times.
Oh,
and we've
okay.
really amped it. And you know, with that, it's like, but that's getting to meet people. And I'm finding people that have those same passions and being able to work with them and grow in this community.
Yeah,
it's really a small community. You don't really realize how small Hollywood is until, you know, it took me 7, almost 8 years that now it's coming full circle that people that I've worked with or people that I know, and all of a sudden we're seeing each other cross paths over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's a neat little town, but it can be scary for the first timer coming out.
I have my heart set on moving out to good old Los Angeles to make it as an actor. I have the makings of the next George Clooney. What advice would you give me? You don't think I look like George Clooney? Maybe in like 30 years.
Maybe if you shave the beard. That could be, yeah, no.
Guests come on my
And
show.
you started it.
Just insulting me. All right. So, what advice would you give to an aspiring actor?
It's always been follow your dreams, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Have no regrets. I live by that mantra every day. You know what? I'm going to get up, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to try. I'm going to push forth to see if I can make it.
Yeah.
If I don't make it, well,
Keep pushing.
I damn tried it. I pushed as far as I could. You know what? Maybe I hit that brick wall and everything falls out. When I'm laying on my deathbed, I can look back and say, I don't have the regret of saying I didn't try it. And so I tell everybody, go for it. Don't have those expectations of it's just going to magically appear. You could get lucky.
Yeah.
You could walk into a whatever cafe and that guy looks at you and goes, wait, man, you'd be great for this part.
You're the guy.
Now this happens, 1 1/10%.
Yeah.
Everything else is all about training. Just prepare yourself for the move. Prepare yourself. Have a backup plan, a plan B of this is what I need to do to survive as I'm continuing to grow, and know that it's not a sprint.
Sure.
It's a marathon.
Now, something I have a question. This is maybe a little bit of my being naive to acting a little bit. How do you prepare for a role? You know, are you practicing lines by yourself? Are you looking in a mirror?
Well, it all depends. In the Meisner study, we are taught, at least with the Ruskin School, we take all our lines,
Okay.
we write them down as one big paragraph.
Okay.
I don't care if it's 3 pages, 4 pages, and we learn it by rote. So
Okay.
you're going to learn and it's the hardest way to learn your lines. But what it allows you to do is not put any emotion behind the lines, because what you're wanting to do is, I may have a scene where I'm supposed to be irate. The actor that's with me is not giving me that escalation.
Okay.
So I cannot go in and just, they're like, I'd like toast with and they're not giving me anything back. So I got to be able to work off of what they're giving me and be able to throw that out. So I learn them by rote.
Okay.
A lot of times I'll just go through and just study the lines, then I'll go through and then I'll just start blurting them out. And then the faster that I can say them, the easier they are just to fall out of the mouth.
And like how long would that take you? Preparation. Does it vary by role?
Actually, it varies by the written word.
Okay, so
Because as a writer, they want that written word said just how it's spelled out on the page.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll let you have a little bit, but a lot of times I'll be reading something and Brad would not say it this way.
Yeah, sure.
So that's where a lot of times it can get sticky, because you're like reading something and it's like, yeah, it makes sense, but I would say it this way.
Yeah.
And so that makes it harder to learn that particular dialogue.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, it's a fun little. Sometimes I can learn them within a day, and then sometimes it can take me a week.
I mean, whatever it takes,
honest,
as long as you get it done.
Right. Well, yeah, as long as I've got them down before we're filming,
Right.
that's the important thing. But
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that always amazed me, whenever you see these super long takes in movies, or that this scene, even though it's been cut in editing, you're like, they knew this whole thing and they were able to do it as a whole scene.
Right.
I'm like, holy cow,
And
how do they know all the lines?
And that's how we do them when we do setups, is we'll run a master shot.
Right.
And then, so you really have to have that whole scene down for the master shot.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a one shot, and then that way we can piece in. And then what you do with that is you go at half your emotion. You don't give a full emotion. You only get to your full emotion when you're into the close-ups, because that's when you're really getting picked up by the camera. You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
And so, a lot of times I'm working with somebody, and especially my producing partner, we were doing a scene and he was giving 150% on the wide shot, and I'm like, okay, here's what's happening. By the time we get to your close-up, you're going to be spent.
Yeah.
You're not going to have enough there to give us what you're giving us now.
It's not going to be 150.
Okay, I know this is 4K and we can squeeze in tight on a close-up, but we don't have to.
Oh man, the magic of technology.
This is something that I've always wondered about too. You come from a Meisner background. Mm-hmm. Among actors, does conflict ever arrive when you're doing a scene with an actor who comes from a different philosophy?
No.
Okay.
As long as they can give the true emotion or give something that it can be worked off of. No,
So
not at all.
it opens.
So
you
it's
up
not
to be
like
able to work
Meisner
with
guys
Right,
and method
right.
and method guys are like throwing rocks at each other.
No,
Takes.
absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. The only thing a lot of times you see with somebody that's method, like say the Daniel Day-Lewis and that, where they become that character 24/7.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Sometimes if it's a whole day, I'll stay in the character.
Sure.
But when it's time to go home, I'm backing away from
you're
it.
Brad.
Because exactly. But some people do that. But as long as I'm getting the moments, it doesn't
That's
matter.
fair.
My thing is to make sure that I'm getting a moment off of you, because then it works so much better. It seems real and natural. And that's all that we're trying to do. Like I said earlier, they're not, these teachers out here, like when we're doing Meisner method, they're not teaching you how to act. They're teaching you how not to act.
Okay.
And that's the big difference, because really to be a true actor is you're not acting. You're living through the moments. You're giving a natural, you're just being human.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So
Something else
Very
I did want to ask is the union. So I know actors, before you if you ever get into the union, well, I guess really, what's the biggest difference?
Well, it took me. So I got to be SAG eligible 4 years ago.
Okay.
5 years ago.
And how is that? You have to have so many hours of...
No, actually, the great thing about having ultra low budget work, so there are certain ways that you can work around with getting actors eligibility.
Okay.
One is you can do background work. You get 3. I never did that. I only did a couple of backgrounds. So they actually give you vouchers, so many background, and then you can
like
apply.
SAG vouchers.
Right.
Okay.
The other way is you do what's called the ultra low budget, and then basically what that is it allows you to be, so it's a SAG film or a SAG show, but it's on an ultra low budget.
Like
cost.
for web or
right,
student
for
film
web or
something.
student film and things like that. And so basically if you have a SAG actor, you come on board, then you can become
Like use
SAG
that.
eligible.
Yeah, okay.
And then that's how you become SAG eligible.
Gotcha, okay.
And so I sat on it for almost
Couple
5 years, 4 years.
Okay.
And then I just signed the dotted line a couple of weeks ago that put me full-time in the union.
Well, hey, that's awesome.
It is, but there are a lot of really cool non-union work that's out there. But it's sad because I even try to talk to like some of the schools and that, hey, do it as a SAG ultra low budget because then, there's too much paperwork. But I just did I played a cancer patient for a short film.
Okay.
The only reason that I really wanted to do that was because of the content in the storyline, and I think it's going to turn out fantastic. But it was non-union.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to lose out on all of those. But now I'm looking at the next level of my career.
To take that
anyways.
step forward, yeah. That makes sense. We normally ask this, of everybody that kind of comes on the show, but if you had maybe like three pieces of advice, and it doesn't have to be acting specific, but to people that are kind of coming out to LA to pursue, film, this industry, Hollywood, what would you tell people?
Okay, here's the one. Be prepared for traffic.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to want to leave early no matter where you're at. Okay, so the main point that I think is you need to be serious. This is not just on the whim, I'm going to do it. Like myself, I could do that because I had some funds set aside. I've earned that right at 40-some years old at the time. Now I'm almost 50. Wow, I can't believe I'm in LA at almost 50.
Yeah.
Is making sure that this is really what you want to do. If it is, go for it. If you have any of that inkling in the back of your mind, wait on it. Build up some money, work on it, then make the move. But
okay, that's good advice.
That's one.
That's good advice.
Number 2, be on time.
Okay.
One of the big things about this industry, just like any other industry, if your call time or your appointment is, say, 3 o'clock like today, I was here downstairs at 2:30. I make sure that you're always on time. That is the biggest thing that will knock you in this market so fast.
Yeah.
Is not being prepared or being. And then the second one is making sure that you're prepared, bringing your A game. You're going, like we were talking earlier, they get thousands of submissions. They look through little thumbnails. So you got to make sure you have this awesome little headshot because all they're doing is looking at these thumbnails. If they can't get something that looks good, then they're going to look at your demo reel.
Right.
If that demo reel ain't up to par, you're done. So if you're getting called in, you should have that respect to make sure that you have your lines. And they don't have to necessarily be completely down because there's been times my manager's turned around and says, I'm heading back home after an audition. And, I got you another one.
You're like, well, not enough time.
Okay. No, I literally turned around, I was heading out. I was almost to Pasadena. I was in LA. I had left. She called me. I stopped. I said, what time is it? And she says, it's in a half hour. And I says, I'll be there. But I told her, I says, let them know. I'm flipping the car around. I'm heading out. I got the sides that day. Right then when I walked in. And I had like 5 minutes to do a look over and went. Beverly Woods, somewhere over there. Yeah. Yeah, I had to flip and go back that way.
How many traffic laws did you violate to get there?
We'll just say
I'll make
That's
a
like
movie
an hour
about that
and a
one
half
one day.
trip.
We'll just say I made it. I was on the 210. Luckily, the traffic wasn't as bad as that. But that's the thing, especially in this business. It's all and I'm going to give them a fourth.
Go for it.
No matter who you meet, no matter who you talk to, you never know who's going to be the next something or something. Your relationships will build, just like you guys. Yeah. We don't know who we're talking to. You know, over the last 8 years, I've seen it, and it's like, oh wait, now this guy's a director.
Yeah.
Oh wait, now
Holy cow.
you know, ooh. You know, that person treated that person bad. Well, they don't forget.
Yeah.
That's the important people. People do not forget. You know, you're coming in to work for somebody, you just treat everybody with the utmost respect.
That makes sense, yeah.
And you'll see everything that'll blossom.
Fantastic.
Dude. You got any good networking tips as an actor? Anything you find works really well?
Okay, that's
and if that's a trade craft,
no. Actually, it's not. It's a double-edged sword because I'm very good at talking. I'm very good at reading people. I've done that.
Genuine.
Right. But I've done that for years.
Sure.
That's a craft that I've learned over the ages and has nothing to do with acting. It just happens to be I'm not afraid to get in and talk to people. But then I know when to step out, when to not. Well, I'm not over there handing a headshot. I'm not over there handing them a card. I'm just meeting them.
Brad, and I think you make the point, and we talk about this all the time on the podcast with our guests, don't we? Relationships are the currency of the world. If you're congenial and you're outgoing and you're respectful, whether you continue in acting or filmmaking or whatever endeavors you pursue in your life, it's going to be valuable because that's part of the world that we live in.
Correct.
And I think sometimes people overthink it and they're like, oh, you have to, I need to have the cards. And that's not it. It's something that's much more primordial. Some people do it naturally and other people just forget to do it. And I think the point you make is do the things that you're doing now in school, that you're doing in your town, that you're doing with everybody you meet. And as long as you're not a total a-hole and you're respectful. Yeah, like I remember,
treat you well. I went to a convention and it was, networking for my current job. But when we were at the convention, everybody's going around and they're just kind of exchanging cards. But it was really impersonal. I was like, I really don't even know who you are. I just got the card. And it was more like, if you ever need this or, need business. But it was very impersonal. I didn't actually form relationships with these people. And the ones that, it wasn't even about collecting cards, but afterwards we would go grab drinks or do something. Those are the people I remember.
Right.
Right? Now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's not just a Rolodex.
It's just like how we met.
Yeah.
There was nothing that I ever pushed on you guys to slam out, oh no, this is what I do. That came at the end.
Yeah, we just talked about the Fighting Irish, man.
That's right.
That's how friendships are
formed.
What?
And I hate to bring this up on a podcast right now, but I'm really looking forward to this year. I think these boys are going to take it.
Me too.
I think national title is in our. What do you think?
Go Irish.
Huh? I say that every year.
Well, we say it every year. We always say that every year.
But I do believe it this year.
This year, I believe it too. So, but this is a great industry to get in. It's a tough industry.
Yeah.
But if you love what you do, and you have to love it. Going back to South Bend, I ran a karaoke DJ company for 15 years called Brad Banacka Entertainment. We were very successful. Mm-hmm. When I first started the business, I said, once it becomes a job, I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
Almost 15 years to the day, it became a job.
Yeah. All right, it's time.
And I let it all go because it was no longer the fun that I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with acting. If it ever became that point, I would step away.
Yeah.
So you got to have fun at it. You got to know that's your passion and that's what you really want to do, and write your own material. My big thing with a lot of the newer kids and adults, and I get a lot of this with a lot of older adults going, well, everybody says that I'm too old. You're never too old. Because they're not going to get a 20-something to play a grandmother. They're not going to get a 20-something to play a mother.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There are character actors that are out there. I'm not planning to be the George Clooney, as you say. It's just not going to. If it does, great. If I get a lead like that, wonderful. But I don't need that. I like just having a good character that's going to give me satisfaction for something that maybe will allow conversation.
And I think you make a great point. I think a lot of actors think, I have to become that 0.001% of all actors who have their names plastered. You can make a great living. You can be successful. You can be working all the time at something you love, making money doing it, and you don't have to be, someone that's being chased by TMZ all the time.
Right.
Well, and, what's also cool, and we live in a great time where there's more content now being produced, and they follow stories of, not just the, young, slick-looking cowboy. Now, they have stories about all kinds of different people, So we live in this is awesome. We have a lot of content diversity out there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the YouTube... as it came out, that's how we came up with the midlife crisis thing, the original web series. It was like, my first statement was we had gotten together and it was just funny. I was like, I says, it'd be funny if we did a web series about a web series because these YouTube kids make money hand over fist. We're writing the first episode. And boom, 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 boom. And we were taking that. And now we've continued to make it into a bigger,
awesome.
we're trying to get something that we can get on Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah, cool.
And the big thing is you can have a camera. The best thing is write your content. If it's bad, it's bad. It's a learning curve. You're always learning. It's never going to be perfect. You can't beat yourself over the head going, oh, that camera shot or blah blah. No, it's all we're learning as we go.
Sure. Right. We hear about all the 22-year-olds who move to Los Angeles every year. And I read some statistics at some point that most people drop out after 3 to 5 years, right?
Oh, I even think it's less than that.
Well,
I even think I think we're talking 1 or 2 years. Actually, is the last thing that I read on Backstage.
And I believe it.
Yeah.
Right. So then, who are the people that are playing the 30-year-olds and the 40-year-olds and the 50-year-olds and the 60-year-olds? Right. It keeps getting a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller piece of that acting pool. So you do bring up a point that for all the people that are thinking of a career change, they're probably better off than if they started it when they were 19 and competing against hundreds of thousands of other 19-year-olds.
Actually, I had a discussion with somebody the other day about that you do look at it because you've got all the young ones that come in now, 10,000 young guys at 21, they all look the same. Yeah. Many times I go on auditions and it's kind of funny with the older guys like ourselves, we don't all look alike. Some of us got goatees, beards, some of them clean shaven, but we're all going out for the same role. And it's like, it makes me feel a little bit better because I'm walking into, I've got a group of guys, we're close because they're all looking for like this 6 foot white guy, bald. You walk in and it's not like we're all the same. Whereas it's kind of candy cutter when it comes to the youngers. When they're bringing him in, they want the washboard stomach kid that's going to be the surfer or whatever. And then you walk in and they all look like the same surfer dude.
Yeah. I totally believe it.
But I do feel that at any age you can come in and you can try your hand at it. There is no age limit to that.
Awesome.
Absolutely not.
I think that's very cool.
Fantastic. Well, something I wanted to ask you, and kind of switching gears a little bit, but if you could pick one, what would be your favorite? So,
with the disclaimer that you gave us before that you now watch movies primarily as a critic,
right,
not a fan anymore.
Well, that we did have that conversation earlier that the hard thing about being a filmmaker, a writer, a producer, an actor, the joys of movies are there, but you're too busy trying to break down what that director was doing or how that actor is having those moments. I hate to say it, but I have to go back to Town and Country Cinemas.
Oh, wow.
1977.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not even there anymore, are they?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, the threeplex that they had. They used to have the one, and then they built it. Well, this is before your guys' time, actually. 1977 for the opening of Star Wars.
That is amazing.
Well, that's not a bad choice.
That's my favorite movie of all time. Of course, I've
got
other ones.
my favorite movie.
And I think this is cool because obviously we don't have many friends who were there when Star Wars came out.
I wish I could have been there.
Oh.
Like, I think it's... Did you have any idea, walking out of the theater, what it had the potential to become?
No, I was only 7 at the time. So, absolutely not.
Yeah.
All I knew, here's my thing. All I knew is I wanted to be Luke Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
As I aged, my taste changed.
Sure.
So when I became middle school, all of a sudden I wanted to be Han Solo.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I love them all. And then when I got older, I gravitated towards Darth Vader. It's weird. Every time that I've watched it, it has brought something different.
Yeah, that's cool.
To how these characters are, what they do, and I think to me that is my all-time favorite. I mean, of course, Harrison Ford's. I'd love to be, but loved all his movies and what Steven Spielberg. Actually, I was just at an audition for USC for a short film, and I was at the Steven Spielberg and George Lucas buildings.
Yep.
And I took pictures on Instagram going, "Hey,
yeah,
these are my guys."
That's awesome.
How did Star Wars, you think, inspire you to be a filmmaker, to be an actor?
If it did.
Oh, it did. Oh, immensely.
I mean, did it? Is there anyone who didn't inspire?
Yeah, I mean.
Well, I really looked at it. I was very introverted as a child.
Okay.
And my music teacher in third grade got me to start singing, and then I had went to Indianapolis for the state finals, and actually got gold medals in solo singing.
Oh, very cool.
And then that led later on to getting into musical theater and finding my voice on stage through that, because I'd always play with the little toys.
Oh yeah.
I always liked having that imagination and being able to I'm doing my own little movie.
Yeah.
I didn't have I mean my dad's VHS super or whatever he had.
Yeah,
I mean,
those
that
big
huge
shoulder pack cameras.
And try and play with those and make little scenes and things like that. And always loved it. Loved the medium, because like I said, you wouldn't think of who I was when I was a kid, because when I was a kid I was so quiet. I didn't really, I was very nervous to talk to girls. I was very nervous to talk to people. I was kind of, but when I got on stage,
this whole other side,
it was
came out.
Well, it was allowing me to play with other people.
Yeah.
To be somebody else and to really shine. So that's when I really got into the theater portion of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I originally wanted to be on Broadway. Now, I do have a friend that actually because I moved from South Bend up to Michigan, and I graduated from Ross Beatty High School in Cassopolis, even though I did go to Penn for a year. But
shout out to Penn High.
Penn High, Ross Beatty, hey, Niles, all you guys. we'll give them all the South Bend schools, the Mishawaka schools, all that. But he works on Broadway.
Oh, very cool.
And so it's cool to see our dreams and us actually realizing that, what we've done back then, saying, "Oh, I want to be this. I want to have my names in lights. I want to do that," and then the real world hits. Yeah. And now you're back at it. So I for some reason I got off on a tangent on that. Oh yeah, it was all because of Star Wars. So you got me started on that.
Yeah.
I think something that is cool for all of us filmmakers who love Star Wars growing up. Now you actually have the opportunity potentially at some point to be in a Star Wars film.
Yeah,
is that something you would ever?
What was it? The Revenge of the Sith came out, and I remember I was like, I don't think George Lucas will ever sell it. So I was like, I think that's it for Star Wars. And of course, being young, bright-eyed kids that had dreams of being filmmakers, that was always like, oh man, wouldn't it be so cool to direct a Star Wars? And then they brought it back, and you're like, oh my gosh.
I would love to, and I know they've got some shows on the works for like their Disney Plus channel. Yeah. There's so much availability for that. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to be able to. That would be something that. Well, we do have somebody from Mishawaka that is in Star Wars.
Adam Driver.
Yeah,
we don't get him on the podcast.
Should we give a shout out to him?
We must know someone.
Another homegrown.
Where'd he go? Mishawaka High School, I think.
Yeah.
So hey,
that's what I'm saying. It's
we know people
world.
In Broadway.
That's
Star
right.
Wars movies.
That's right.
I guess the only reason why I ask is I'm sure that there's sometimes there's some things that are so powerful in our minds that like we would never want to be a part of it because we wouldn't want to risk taking it.
It's kind of like the old meeting your heroes.
Yeah.
Like, we're, kind of worrying, like, oh my gosh, like, if I meet Steven Spielberg and, like, he's a jerk.
Right.
You're like, no.
So that's just why. So I think it's cool that you're like, no, if I got the opportunity.
Oh, yeah. It definitely would take it. Any type of an opportunity like that. My it's always been a dream to be able to work with some of these great actors and be able to just learn off of them while we're on set. Working with Danny Glover, it was just like watching this natural. It was just fantastic to see how, wow, I want to be like that. You know, I want to be able to snapping it, boom, I'm done. To see, and it's a really cool feeling that they've continued with the Star Wars, especially now since we've got that little thing. I don't know, can we use the word Disneyland?
I'll tell you this, and he can vouch for this, that when I came out at my wedding, they played the Star Wars throne room music, and my wife and I had custom-made lightsabers.
And the wedding party held up lightsabers, I know, because I did.
That's what I'm saying.
I love Star Wars. Yeah, that's my jam.
Nice. But go ahead.
No, I just want to bring it back to the movie, just for the next
Oh yeah, little tangent there.
I mean, if we could talk wedding planning all we want afterwards. I just want to get this one out. So, Brad, what do you think as a 7-year-old kid you saw in Star Wars that A, left such a lasting impression on you, and B, you had never seen before in a movie?
Oh, wow. I think really when I gravitated towards Luke, I really felt that I was him in a way because of the way that he was brought up and the way that he kind of, in that first beginning, and then he grew into a great star.
Kid in farm country, dreaming of big things.
Exactly, which is exactly where we're from. Okay, let's everybody in the podcast world understand that South Bend in the Michiana area is a small area, and it's surrounded by cornfields. Yeah, lots and lots of cornfields. So that is actually the basis of, and it probably wasn't as much when you guys were growing up. Really, we would
right next to the cornfield.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we were in the country, and to get that feel of looking out towards something bigger, looking towards that Chicago, looking towards LA, looking towards what can I do, my dreams, my aspirations, and even at 7 years old, that had a big impact.
Yeah.
And that's where it was, and that you're exactly right. It's like, wow, he's dreaming, and look what he got to do. I want to do that.
That's awesome.
I think that's cool.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's resonating with me for sure. That's how I felt.
It's making me think of obviously Dustin and I talk about Star Wars all the time. He texted me a quote from Jon Favreau when that George Lucas told him when he started out as a director. Do you remember what it was?
See if I can pull it up. But it was a pretty cool quote because, to get any advice from George Lucas, you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. To sit down with George.
Well, of course.
So here was his quote. He said, "The one thing George Lucas said to me was, remember, John, the real audience for all these stories and these myths is the kids that are coming of age." And he goes on to say, because he's a really, big Joseph Campbell, student. And he's like, we enjoy the stories as adults, but really storytelling is about imparting the wisdom of the previous generations onto the children who are becoming adults and giving them a context on how to behave and learn lessons and, not repeat the mistakes of the past and things like that. And I was like, dang.
He did that with you. He did that with all of us. But as the 7-year-old kid in the movie theater, everything he set out to do, he accomplished. I think that's pretty.
And that's why that's really one of the reasons why it has become such a phenomenon. The whole original trilogy, and I had a little bit of time getting into the prequels.
Yeah,
my favorite part was the last 10 minutes of the last one, of course, when you hear the breath of Darth Vader. But the rest of it was but it's coming more together as they move forward with the final three. It's just something that in our psyche, we're looking towards something bigger.
Yeah.
What's our purpose in life? Even at a young age, we're all having fun,
Find your
but that
place
still runs. It still kind of runs in. I don't want mom and dad yelling at me all the time, or I have a place to go, and that was our escapism.
Yeah. Obviously, you saw the first one in the theater. Did you go see Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi?
Oh well.
I figured. Now, did you go when they did the special edition releases in the 90s?
I waited till video.
Because when we were kids, that was our only chance to see Star Wars.
Actually, I think it still is. I don't think they ever re-released it. they planned on it, but then he sold it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
so
not.
I think that's
See,
special
that's
edition
a
Tales
hard
in
call
comparison.
because I'm not big on him adding the special effects to Star Wars.
I wasn't either. I'm not a big fan of revisionist
Filmmaking.
going back and saying like I'm going to
I
change.
mean, I know that's what he wanted, but because that was his original vision of, I want the Death Star to do this, and I want this to this, and I wanted that, and it just didn't work. But the way that he had cut the film, the way that the through line went
I don't know why
there was no reason. The only thing was when he added Jabba the Hutt. Okay, I understood that
it does
scene,
make the
but it doesn't
trilogy
it doesn't really roll in that.
Right.
It wasn't in the beginning, and it's like who shot first.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
The most famous
Well,
change.
come on.
Exactly.
You know,
Ron
or
shoots
even
first.
though, like, you know, if, you know, just for the sake of conversation, I know, like, in E.T., Steven Spielberg went back and took the guys
Guns
that were
out.
chasing the kids, he took the guns and made them, like, flashlights or something, you know. And I was like, you know, these things, they're a product of their time.
Right.
You know, and there's something to be said about, like, this is where you were at. This is where effects were at. Like, that's
Well, you
how
even
it was.
bring a good statement in, and you may want to cut this or whatever. But let's look at Netflix and what they just did with 13 Reasons Why.
Oh yeah,
And they took out the most pivotal scene, which I think, because of today's society,
right.
they put, oh no, that's going to cause people. No, it shouldn't cause people. That was a scene meant to open that up. You know,
Right.
you take the suicide scene out, and now you've just flatlined the whole series.
That's kind of the point of it.
And
So-
that was my feeling, and it's the same thing. And you look at that now, I understand some of this. I guess I gotta tread lightly on the
Yeah, like
movements,
PC stuff.
but
Yeah.
but it's getting some of this is getting so politically correct. He's changing it from guns to flashlights. Okay,
to be fair to Spielberg, though, he totally regretted that.
See, he was doing the PC. I'm going
Yeah.
to conform because we've got some people that are outraged
Well,
instead of following his storyline like he should have.
And I think it sets a dangerous precedent in the sense that I don't think there's a single filmmaker, I don't think there's a single artist who ever thinks that anything is
perfect.
good enough. Right?
We could all go
Writers
back
can
to, like,
keep
Right.
rewriting forever, right?
Right.
Filmmakers can keep recutting forever. I think
at some point you have a finished product.
you
Right.
have to, right? Or you're
And
not
you gotta
making
stand
art.
by
And that's it, right?
I just think it's a dangerous precedent. To
Hey, isn't
say
it
that.
ironic that both of those movies, Star Wars and E.T., both became the biggest movies of all time in their own respective, you know, box office numbers, and then those were the ones that got revised?
That's kind of weird.
We'll go ahead and wrap up the conversation. Now, what we always do at the end of every show is we want to throw it over to you and ask you if you have any shout-outs. Is there anybody, you know, that you would love to just be like,
Or
hey,
anything
thanks.
you got to plug.
Yeah.
Oh, I got.
This is
Well,
the Brad.
Yeah, this is your
the
time.
This is the Brad. Of course, like I said, I have 2 movies out on Amazon Prime, which is Schiff and LaQuisha. I want to shout out for Janice, the director of Angels Never Cry. We're hoping to get distribution out here, but of course we're going international right now, which I'm really excited about. My big thing is, of course, working on our half-hour pilot, Over Our Heads. We started shooting last week. We've got some names that are attached, which is going to be fun.
Exciting.
I've also got another film which is called The Fix, which is a boxing movie, which is a cross between Rocky and a 1949 film called The Setup, which is basically about the corruption and the fixing of boxing matches.
Cool.
And so that's basically a down-and-out boxing manager scheming to get back on top by using a young street fighter to take the fall.
Okay.
And so that's something that I have in work as a film. So I've got plenty that are going on with my producing partner Patrick. My website, bradbanacka.com.
And how can people find you on social?
Well, Brad Banacka on Instagram, Brad Banacka on Facebook, B Banacka on Twitter. I should change that to Brad Banacka on Twitter.
So it may be B. Banacka or Brad
Banacka
Banacka.
on
You just
Twitter.
got to
Okay.
feel it out, folks.
It'll feel it out. But you can go onto my Instagram, my Facebook. I do have a webpage, bradbanacka.com. And then, of course, my production company, Brad B Entertainment, which I took my old company and I'm moving
Keeping
it
the
forward.
roots. I like it.
Yes.
Cool.
So, and that's pretty much what we got going on right now.
All right.
Fantastic.
Well,
Exciting
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and
Good to have you
anybody
back on.
anybody wanting to help us produce some of this stuff,
Reach
out to me, email me. We're always looking for people that have that. We like to collaborate a lot with a lot of different people, so we're open to helping anybody out. You know, if you're new in the business out here and you have nowhere to turn, drop me a line.
Cool.
Always
Very
willing
cool.
to talk to you.
Well, I wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time coming on the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and we're excited to have you back on because obviously you're going to have more stories to tell. And the only other thing is, I mean, I think Dustin and I both have to say, you know, go Cubs. Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. I can't believe you guys put me on the spot like this. White Sox fan.
That's
Yeah,
not
screw
our
him.
problem. Oh, I have a little story. Wait. So I was taking a class. I'm not going to mention the name of the teacher here in LA, and I was handed a script. I was told she wanted it in a Chicago accent. Well, we're from outside of Chicago.
Yeah.
We have Chicago accents.
Yeah.
She didn't specify, that's why I brought that up, that she wanted that little 2-block area in southern Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where they talk like the Bears. Nobody does that in Chicago. But we ended up having this big argument because she's like, you're not talking Chicago. And I kind of looked at her, and a couple of other people that know me looked at me, and I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to talk? This is how we talk. You go to Chicago, you go to South Bend. This is how we converse. I can't make it up. But you're a South Sider. It's okay. You know, actually, I worked on Comiskey Field.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah, when I was roofing.
Should have
Cool.
buried a Cubs jersey there.
Ooh, that's a brilliant idea. Next time we're together, we're just gonna wear our Cubs stuff. And then,
All right. Well, wants to follow me at Big Kid D-Man across all the social channels.
And you can always find me at IndyCal5, wherever your social media needs take you. In the meantime, let us know if you have any questions, any feedback, any advice.
Right. So to everybody tuning in, thank you so much for listening. And once again to Brad, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Great episode. All right. We will be back.